This 31st day of October 2017 at 10 a.m. In attendance today are Commissioner Gibson, Commissioner Harvey, and myself, Commissioner Ebert. And happy Halloween. We had a nice little Halloween party this morning, so it was good to see employees dressed up and having a good time. We'll start with an invocation today by Stephanie Ebert. We'll have a Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Sean Wilkinson and a Thought of the Day by Commissioner Harvey. Mrs. Ebert.
Dear kind Heavenly Father, we're very grateful to be able to meet here today as a county and as citizens in this great place that we live in. We ask Thee to watch over us and bless us with safety and the ability to make good decisions and look out for the things that we are in charge of. We're very grateful for this wonderful community we live in and ask Thee to continue to bless us with all of the blessings that we have in this great country. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ebert and Mr. Wilkinson. Commissioner Harvey has our thought today. Commissioner Harvey.
Recently, and I don't really remember where I was, but in a public area, I saw a picture of Teddy Roosevelt. And most of you won't be able to see this, but Teddy Roosevelt with a saying, just a short saying. He said, "Complaining about a problem without proposing a solution is called whining." I like Teddy Roosevelt. I just thought I'd pass that on.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Gibson, any thoughts about whining?
Yeah, I got a lot of those. Can I just have a moment of personal privilege?
Yes, sir, of course.
First of all, I wanted to introduce to you and welcome home, for those of you who have not met, my sweet daughter, Cassidy, back here. She's going to shoot me for doing this, but it's kind of a fun time for me because she just returned from a mission after 18 months in Malaga, Spain. And so I'm glad that she's gone through that stage where she's back and she actually wants to hang around me again for a minute. So I'm excited to have her with me. We got some things to do this afternoon and she was able to come and spend the morning with me, so I'm excited about that. Also, I think it's noteworthy that we mentioned today that I just read today, and I hadn't heard, but that former Commissioner Lowell Peterson passed away. And I had not, like I said, heard, but I read that today with some sadness after having only recently gotten to know him and appreciated his service and his dedication to our community over the years. I didn't know him during the time that he served, but I had heard that many good things about his dedication to the county and his willingness to serve. So my thoughts and prayers are with his family, and I hope that they will have peace and comfort during this difficult time in their lives. So thank you.
Point of information, Lowell was sitting on the Beaver County Commission when they took the aggressive move to he and Bill Bailey and Bob Hunter were the three that started the fairgrounds, the Weber County Fairgrounds, and so without those three, we would be without that facility. So just he's made a lot of marks in a lot of places, and a great leader we've lost.
Served in the legislature, so he served at a state level, he served at a county level, and then he served within his community throughout his life. I know Doug Peterson very well, and I always like to say, you know a man by the fruits of his labor. And if his father is any reflection of who Doug Peterson is, his father was a great man. So it's good for us to remember those who are community leaders and have brought a tremendous amount and inspired us within our community. So prayers to the family. We'll now move on to our presentations. We'll start with the presentation of the Native American Heritage Month Proclamation. Our presenter is the Golden Spike DAR. Come on up. You take a moment to introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning. I am Pat Bosman. I'm the regent of the Golden Spike Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution in Ogden. The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, or DAR, promotes respect for the indigenous people of our continent. In doing so, DAR, through its American Indians Committee and its general membership, encourages continuing public education on the history and culture of the Native community and supports the educational and cultural pursuits of its citizens. One way DAR recognizes the contributions made by American Indians to our country's greatness is to observe November as National American Indian Heritage Month, which was officially declared by President George H.W. Bush and Congress in 1976. Ogden's Golden Spike Chapter and DAR salutes the Weber County Commission for officially proclaiming November as National American Indian Heritage Month in Weber County and for encouraging Weber County citizens to enthusiastically observe it. We thank you.
Wonderful. Any other thoughts? Well, thank you very much. We do have a proclamation, and if you wouldn't mind, I'll read it.
Sure.
National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, American Indians Committee. We have a proclamation. And whereas the history and culture of our great nation have been significantly influenced by American Indians, and indigenous peoples, and whereas the contribution of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August of 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month, and whereas in honor of National American Indian Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historical activities have been planned. Now, therefore, I, James Ebert, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Commission Chair of Weber County, do hereby proclaim November as the National American Indian Heritage Month in Weber County and urge all citizens to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. We'd like to present that to you today in recognition, and we'll come down to you if you don't mind. But before that, any thoughts or comments by our commission?
I think the proclamation said it well. Thanks for all you do.
It's so important that we have groups that continue to recognize our history and our heritage, bring light to it, and really celebrate it. And that is the importance of diversity within our community. So thank you for your continued support and your activity specifically to this.
Thank you. We'll be having the president of the Shoshone Band headquartered in Brigham City speak at our November meeting. So we're anxious to hear what they have to say to us.
Amazing. If we can come down and if you would step forward.
Okay, thank you.
Again, thank you very much for all the great work that you're doing. We've had a request to move presentation number 2 to the end of our action items. Are there any reservations about moving that to the end of our action items, Commissioners?
None.
Okay, so we'll move that to the end. We'll move on then to F, consent items. Number 1 is a request for approval of warrants 1241 through 1248 and 422207 through 422552 in the amount of $1,932,934.74. Item number 2, request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $139,657.50. Item number 3 is a request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on October 24th, 2017. Item number 4 is a request from the Weber County Transfer Station for approval of surplus equipment. And item number 5 is a request from the Weber Morgan Health Department for approval to surplus some vehicles. Any questions on those consent items, commissioners? Seeing none, Mr. Ricky Hatch, would you go over our warrants and POs, please?
You bet. We had 15 purchase orders this week for $140,000. The 4 largest of those began with 27% or $38,000. That was for our Golden Spike Arena, the wireless project, making that solid wireless capability. 24% or $34,000 is for property management, and that is to replace the security camera system here at the Weber Center. 21% or $30,000 was for the sheriff's office, and that was for bulletproof vests and an x-ray sensor, and 19% or $26,000 was for the library, and that was for shelving as well as grading. As far as checks, we wrote 354 checks for $1.9 million. 40% of that amount, or $767,000, was for employee health and dental insurance. 17%, or $327,000, was ramp tax distributions. And then 11%, or $213,000, was the monthly contribution to the paramedic fund.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hatch. Any questions for Mr. Hatch on the warrants or POs? Seeing none, I'm open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent items as read.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you very much. We'll move to G, action items. Number 1 on our action items is a discussion and our action on a library in the Western Weber County. Our presenter today is Mr. Mayor Dickamore. Mayor.
That's a tall drink of milk.
Pardon me?
That's a tall drink of milk right there.
Yeah. As most of you know, Northwest area has not received a library, and I want to do a little bit of history for you and kind of get you up to base where everybody here, and I want it to be a member of record on here. In 1999, the commissioners had an opportunity to put a library in the Northwest area, and it was taken out of the budget in 1999. And in 2014, again, there was an opportunity for a library in the Northwest area, and it was taken out of the budget, and the monies was put, which was for good use, to improve the North Ogden branch and do improvements on the Ogden branch, and then also take care of the branch in South Ogden. That's been 18 years. The people in the Northwest area have been very patient and want to receive a library. It's been 18 years that they haven't had an opportunity to be able to have the benefits of other cities. Now, I want to just take a few minutes and go back over so everybody here is aware of what we've tried to do in the Northwest area. About a couple of months ago, I met with all 3 of you. And we sat down and I presented a plan of how that library could be funded. And we discussed it, and it was a good discussion, and I appreciated that. After that meeting, I met with the library board and made a presentation to them, and it was unanimously accepted that a library needed to be pushed forward in the Northwest area. But prior to that, in 2014, there was the library board wanted to have a plot of ground to be able to put the library on. And they asked for 3.5 acres of ground to have that put on. And the cities that participated in seeing if they would be selected, and that board was put together by people not affiliated with the library board. It was a separate board. The cities that were presented a bid to be able to host a library in the Northwest area was Marriott, Slaterville, Plain City, and Far West. I submitted the application for Far West, and it was accepted, which we were greatly appreciative of from the library board. That ground that the library board selected is 3.5 acres, but it's commercial ground worth $1 million plus that was going to be given to the library and to Weber County. With that being said, and with the selection of that property, which the reason that was selected is, number one, its location, 2700 West, 1900 West, the old highway, access to the freeway, and they thought that was the best spot for a library, and we appreciated that. After that meeting, and we had that all taken care of, after meeting with the commissioners, I met with the Fremont Cone. The Fremont Cone consists of the principals and the PTSA in the area. The principals that attended that meeting were the principals from Fremont High School, Walquist Junior High, Far West Elementary, Pioneer Elementary, and possibility of a person from the school district representing a new school that's going to be built in Far West. They were unanimous and excited about having a library right across the street from the new Walquist Junior High School, where that 3.5 acres is, that we would be willing to give to Weber County to have a library built there. After that, I met with the PTSA presidents in the same areas, unanimous except for one. And I'll make this comment because I think it's kind of hilarious. One of the members of the PTSA said, after I graduated from high school, I've never been in a library, so I don't think it's necessary. But all of the citizens and the work of the PTSA and the principals out in the Northwest area is excited. And they're ready for their library to take place. I was dropping off my grandchildren the other day at one of the elementary schools, and the principal seen me as I was dropping them off, and he came running over to the car and said to me, Lee, where we're at with the library. We're so excited about it. I told him about this meeting, and I told him I would get back to him and see where the issue is. Now, the reason I'm here, this is an issue of fairness. Fairness to the citizens in the Northwest area. They pay taxes. They're paying taxes for the different branches and the bonds that have been placed in the library out in the Pleasant Valley Library. They're paying money for that, but they still don't have their library. So it's a deal. It's a thing of fairness for those citizens who attend the Fremont Cone. Let me just take a few minutes about the Fremont Cone. Now, I'm not a politician. I'm an educator, and there's going to be another school built in Far West in walking distance of the ground that we have proposed we would give to Weber County. With that being said, with 13 new classrooms being added on to Fremont High School, and presently Walquist is at max, there is as many elementary kids in Far West Elementary as in Walquist Junior High, so that's another issue that has to be taken care of. So the library here in this area is crucial for our citizens and our kids. Now, I'm a product of favoring the education of our children, and our children needs a state of the art, and nobody here in this room can say that the Ogden, new renovated Ogden branch, the new renovated North Ogden branch, the beautiful branch in Roy, how that adds to a community and to its patrons. Far West City, once again, is willing to give $1 million worth of ground. With that being said, let me just place where the libraries are in Weber County right now. There's one in Huntsville, which I've been in. It's a smaller library, beautiful. Ogden Library is being remodeled. Roy, if you haven't been there, what a glorious edifice for the Roy City area. South Ogden's got the Pleasant Valley branch. North Ogden is being remodeled, but there's nothing in the Northwest area. I have presented a plan, I have talked to the commissioners about the plan. They've been very gracious in saying where the money is on the budget. But let me just say one thing. When I met separately with you, we talked about the parking structure here on the east side of the building. And you said that was 2 years out when I talked to you individually. Well, most of you brought up the transportation on 12th Street to take care of that, and then the convention center. But of all the meetings that I've had, there has been no plan or no thing presented to the Northwest area citizens when a library is going to be there. There has been a plan submitted to you, but I haven't received anything back or any information back on where that's going with you and the commissioners, or where's that. 18 years, 2 times turned down. Everybody has a library except the Northwest area. It's a fairness issue. I don't know any other way of being able to put it out there. Now, in fairness to what I'm trying to say here, the Ogden branch up on the hill here is going to be dedicated in April. You guys are going to look like you're outstanding. There's going to be articles in the paper. They're going to say how neat this is. They're going to bring artifacts out from that library as they should, and it's going to be a neat thing. In May, North Ogden branch is going to be dedicated. And it's going to be a beautiful facility. I once again say nothing in the Northwest area. I'm here to just let you know that you have the support of the Fremont Cone, the PTSA, the citizens. If you could come up with a plan and tell us when, we will have an opportunity to have a library. And you can't tell me that a library is something that's not important. It is the hub of the area in which you live in. The plan that I presented was that we used, the structure, we were going to use the same in the floor plan as this Pleasant Valley Library. Save money. We're going to save, tell me the cities that have libraries is given as much money as Far West City is giving to Weber County for a library. There's not a library bill in Weber County that has given more, that will be given more than Far West City on that property. Now, I'm not a politician. As I said, I'm an educator, and I know the value of a library, and I know the effects it has on families and everything else. But I just would like to know, if there is a good decision made, when is it going to be made? Is there a plan made? What's that plan, and how is it going to be taken care of? Because I've excited the people enough to know that they are important, that they need to be represented with a library in their area. 18 years, we do not have one. 2 times we have been turned down. And I appreciate the opportunity. I wouldn't want to sit in your seat. Fortunately, I run again for a mayor, and nobody run against me, and so I'm in it for 4 more years. But you're going to see me here 4 more years doing something to get a library out there in that Northwest area. It's not going to go away, and whatever it takes. I know elections are coming up. I know decisions. I know you're worried about retaining your office. I know that's an issue, but I know one thing. If it's right, and it's talked about being right, the citizens in the county will support what's right. And I leave that with you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. As one who sits on that library board, please give me just a few minutes to commend you for coming here and presenting the plan that I've heard now several times. You came today, Mayor Lee, because you're committed to it and you wanted to be on record. That's what I understand. With you, I'm not afraid to say that in the library board, I was one of many that approved that plan. Saying that, I thought it was a great idea to have a library in the northwest portion of this county. We have, if you look geographically, if you look from a long ways up, we know we have a library up in our Ogden Upper Valley. We have one in the center of town that'll be completed, as you mentioned. We have one that is southeast, in our northwest, northeast, but not northwest. I too am a fan of children, as you mentioned. I believe in children, and I believe in libraries. I, at one time, and being one who was on the agenda when the library discussion was first brought up, I listened to the debate for the library bonding some years ago. Mayor, you mentioned 17, 18 years ago you've been without a library, and some have been without libraries since the 70s. I remember the dedication in the early 70s of our main library. With that, though, I'll go back to saying that from our position, and I said this in the library board meeting, it's important that we're fiduciarily responsible with taxpayer funds, and timing has a lot to do with when we can fund projects. My understanding in meeting with you individually was that this had to be done now. And while I'd love to be able to do it now, it's not fiscally responsible for this board, in my opinion, I'm speaking as one, not three, to move forward with it in the next, right now. Seeing your name on the agenda, I had a conversation with Scott Park, our comptroller, and asked him to just be prepared to take a couple of minutes to talk about when would be a good time for us to do things. Now, you mentioned other big capital improvement projects, such as the parking structure and other things. It would be irresponsible for us to move forward on any of those from if we're going to bond or do anything else with that. Scott, could you explain some of that? Could you come to the mic really quick and explain some of those things as far as our capabilities in being able to bond, first our bond capacity and maybe the sales tax, how we did South Ogden? Because I want people to understand too that the library in the Northwest that has been explained to me or proposed would be similar to the one in South Ogden in size and look. They make libraries a lot like a cookie cutter. And Mr. Bond, that'd be great if you had something to chime in there that help us with. Just so I want people to understand where we are, and I really want to help the mayor get what I think would be good for the citizens collectively. So could you take a minute and do that?
Sure. So, I mentioned to John Bond, the county treasurer, when you'd called me, just in case he wanted to talk about our capacity to issue bonds.
Thank you.
He works with our financial advisor and has some information on that. But just at a high level, there are a lot of county projects that we have. Based off of recent events, we went through a tax increase last year. The reason why we did that is because we had not been funding our capital projects as we should have, and we had a large amount of deferred maintenance, deferred equipment needs, and various things like that.
Could you put a number on that? When you say a large amount, are you talking 6 million, 10 million, 15 million?
I don't have the budget with me. I believe it was over $40 million, but that included $20 million worth of projects we were doing for the library. So 20 million at least of unfunded county capital projects.
Okay, thank you.
This year, we're going to present the tentative budget where we have the numbers for this budget.
We'll do that here in just a few minutes.
We will. So I'll hold off on going into the specifics of that. But we still have, we have some extra money now to fund some of our capital projects needs, but we don't have enough money to fund all of the project needs that we have currently, and that's before we start adding new projects to the list. Now, there will always be changes in priorities, things that come up, timing opportunities that may, if we could get some matching funds, we may change the order of those projects. But if we commit to build a new library facility or a parking structure or anything else, there's a lot of other things that we have on our list that we will no longer be able to do. So it's a question of priority and what do we fund first? What do we consider to be the most critical needs for the county? What's going to provide the greatest
return on investment. And so those are difficult decisions. I don't envy you, commissioners, when you get to make that priority list, but we don't have enough capacity to do all the projects that we have right now. And that's before we add some of these other projects. Now, that doesn't mean we can't prioritize the library and put it on there and weigh it against all the other projects we have and see where it comes out. And if it turns out that it's higher on the priority list, then it's conceivable within a few years that we can start getting to that. But again, that's a decision as to the priority of the county.
It's high on my priority list, and I don't mind publicly saying that.
Yeah. But I asked John Bond to come up here too. Some people say, well, can't we just issue debt or bond for this? We are running out of sales tax capacity to issue new debt. And if we issue debt for a library, that would hinder our capacity to issue debt for, say, a parking structure or for any other infrastructure needs that come up. If you recall, a few years ago, we had a flood that brought to light that we had woefully under-maintained our stormwater systems, and we were able to get some federal dollars to help us with that, but that was a $25 million project, of which $5 million came from the county's funds. If something else were to pop up like that, if we had already used all of our sales tax capacity for issuing debts, then we wouldn't be able to respond to those issues. So that's just a higher risk than what we would like to recommend, at least me as the comptroller. We need to have some room available, so we don't want to max out our bonding capacity. But I'll let Mr. Bond talk to that if you would.
I learned about this conversation yesterday, so I don't have a lot prepared, but let me just talk about a couple of things. One is an issue of balance. And balance is timing, fiduciary issues. How do we balance needs, and how do we make sure that the needs are addressed in a timely way? When we look at bonding capacity, in broad terms, we have two routes we can go down. 4 years ago, we were really engaged with the library bond of $45 million. The commissioners wanted to go out to the public and say, do you want to take that on to your backs through a vote, which provides us a couple of different things. It gives us less interest rate if the county, through the voting process, goes down that road. If we take this type of an issue out to the community in a voting capacity and have it voted on as a bond, our interest rate will be lower. It also gives us that reassurance from the community that this is the direction that they want to go. This is what they did 4 years ago in June in 2013 when we addressed it at that point with this the various issues with the library then. Do you want to do that? If you don't, then you go over to a different route, and that is we borrow using our sales tax revenue as collateral. Those are basically the two routes. It's very simple. You want to go out for a vote? Do you want to use the revenue from sales tax? And when we do that, if we go out for a vote, if you want to go down that road, I think there is a lot to be discovered and explored and discussed. I know Linda Wainsgard did a tremendous amount of analysis before. That needs to be done here. She can take what she's got already and just add to that. So I think we need information, first and foremost, amongst a variety of people that are involved in the county side as well as in the community that's doing this. So when you balance all these things, do you want to do this now? Do you want to do it in 3 to 5 years? Do you want to do it in 10 years? Is there a timeline that is acceptable to the commissioners? We tend to want to, in our roles here as other elected officials, support you in your decisions, commissioners, as best we can. The more information and the more buy-in, the more we've got that from different pockets, the community, within the county, etc., the greater chance we have of making this successful. So gathering information is a big deal. I don't have enough information right now, even right now standing here talking to you. I haven't seen Mayor Dickamore's plan, and I'd love to see it. I haven't seen all the details. But getting that information leads us then to that basic decision. Do we go out for a vote? Do you try and take care of that through a revenue source internally inside the county and using sales tax as our tool? Let me just talk about a discussion I had earlier this spring with our financial advisor. In October, we went out for a $10 million bond, sales tax bond, a year ago at this point in time. And we have certain coverage. We had what they do is they look at the amount of bonding that we're going to do, and how much ability we've got to pay it back easily. And we had 5 times coverage. If we went out for $10 to $15 million right now in a sales tax environment, using sales tax bond, that would reduce to a 3 times coverage. It's very likely that our bond rating would drop from AAA, which it is right now, and AAA came at a high cost. It meant that we were well managed. It meant that we were very fiscally prudent, and we had a great economy going on, and the county was well managed. There's a lot of things that go into a AAA bond rating. Likely would we drop to a AA? His prediction was yes. Would our interest rate go up? Yes. If we borrowed $10 to $50 million right now for other things. My advice to you recently about parking structure and other large capital projects was to hold off for a minute and gain a little bit more of fund balance, meaning our savings account, and move ahead a little bit more slower than we have. We've had several projects in the past 5 years, and that would be my advice to you now. But there again, we need to take all these things into account for what you're trying to do, this balance. Is that a good idea to go from AAA to AA? Those are the risks that we encounter when we go out for another $10 to $50 million in bonding today using sales tax. If you go out for a bond, you know, with a general obligation, government general obligation with the community voting on that, different arena and a different path. So I'd like to get more information. I'd like to balance these things. I'd like to give you good advice.
Wouldn't that have the same impact though on the bond ratings, or not? Different impact?
We're not using the sales tax, but we're using the vote of the public, and that is a high guarantee, and it's a signal to the bonding lending community that we've gone out to vote, and that sends a different message. So I think the stronger message is if you go out to a vote, like we did with 4 years ago with the $45 million on the library, it sends a different message to the lending community.
Let me say to you, to other commissioners, that the numbers we're talking about that were presented to the board were a structure that would be 10 to 12 million in cost, and that doesn't include the generous donation by Far West, the $1 million there, but we're still 10 to 12 million dollars there, another $500,000 for books and infrastructure to just get it filled up, and then ongoing costs of about $500,000, maybe 600,000 annually to keep that running. So there are other costs associated with that. We have to plan for.
Yeah. The commissioners are right in the middle of a budget session right now. It's better that we advise you with good numbers and good information. Right now, do I have it? No. Is it better that we have that information first? Yes. Is it good that we get the mayor's analysis and go through that and do our best to analyze that? Sure. Is it good to put this into a strategy? I think what I heard from the mayor was we have a plan, we have a lot of support and enthusiasm, and will the commissioners project out in a time fashion if that plan fits into the county's ability to make decisions and where that will sit? Is that a 1, 3, 5, 10-year agenda? Analysis needs to be done to even put that into perspective.
What I've learned today from your presentation, Mayor Dickamore, is that, okay, we recognize that, and from what Scott and John, both of you have said, it would be fiscally irresponsible for us to act quicker because it would cost us money from the bond rating and also from an interest standpoint, but maybe to look more serious. And I think what I'm learning from you today, Mayor, is, okay, if it's not January 2018, is it a yes or a no? And if it's a yes, what year? Is that accurate?
All I'm saying is if you put it out to a vote, the people in the county are not going to vote. They've already got their library. So the vote is not going to work for the Northwest area. All we need is enough money for bricks and mortar, and the library board said they'll take care of all the instruction side. They're already saying the books and everything else for that library. That's basically what they need. But if it's not now, when?
That's what I said. That's
I have not heard from any of you three, well, we can't do it now, because that's what you're saying. It's fiscally not impossible to do it now. But But when? We want to know, when are they going to be represented and have a library in the Northwest area?
I'm supportive of a library in the Northwest area, but I'm unprepared to answer that question as to when right this moment. And until we meet with the Finance Committee, we have put the, I can tell you that our Finance Committee is now back intact and is functioning, and we'll have to just calendar or itemize those things. I'm not prepared today to be able to answer that specific question, but we can answer that question rather soon. And when I say soon, I don't dare give you a time, but I think we can get some projections together after we get with the budget. Would 6 months or 3 months or what would be a reasonable time, since both of you, Mr. Bond and Mr. Park, sit on that Finance Committee? When would be a reasonable time, providing we have the vote of the Commission when that is?
The analysis would take 3 or 4 months to do if we were to do a good job of gathering data from the mayor, from Linda Wainsgard, from you as far as your direction, as far as how you want to proceed with the budget within the county. And within 3 or 4 months, all of that could be gathered together. We'd get with our financial advisor, bond counsel, that type of thing, with our attorney's office, with the budget for the county needs to be overlaid on this whole thing. And I think that within 3 or 4 months, we would have good data. Right now, we're looking at bonds that are going to drop off on this building, meaning being completely paid off in about 3 years. We need to factor that in. The bond that we took out last year will be paid off in the next 3 years. Those type of timing issues are all relevant. Did I come today prepared to talk about all those timing issues and relevancy? No, but they are relevant. And 3 or 4 months, we can have you good data, and you can have further discussions.
Let's calendar that, and then I'll communicate that further. That's my, thank you, Chair Ebert.
Welcome, Commissioner Gibson.
Well, Mr. Bond, I know that you have all that information stored in your hard drive, so you should be able to regurgitate fairly quickly, but I'm just kidding. You just,
I'm just being modest, but
you're a smart guy.
We, again, I reiterate, if we can support the commissioner's agenda, and you're really in the driver's seat as far as how I see this whole thing moving forward, and as we have public input for a variety of different things, how do we best support you? And I want good data in front of you, all three, to make sure that you're making have available that information to you and make the wisest choice you can. And
I know that's true.
I think 3 or 4 months, all of us together, we'll be able to have that time so that you can digest that and make sense of it and kind of go where we're going to go, and then we'll just do our best to help you along that decision path.
Okay, thanks. I just want to tell the mayor thank you for being here today. As he mentioned, he's a educator. I would imagine you've influenced 1 million kids or more, maybe more. I don't know if you've ever put a number to it, but it's pretty impressive. And your service to your community is no less commendable. And I love to see the passion that you have for this project, to the point that I think he's correct that I don't know that we've ever seen that type of a capital contribution from a city. Well, surely from a city, maybe from anyone, towards a project that they feel that strongly about. So that, I think that shows the level of dedication here that is impressive and commendable. This library issue has taken a lot of bandwidth during my time on the commission, and honestly, this has been a priority of mine from the beginning. I don't understand. We cannot round out and complete our library system without having a library in the fastest growing portion of our community, and the one that will continue to see the growth in the Northwest quadrant. And so I feel a little bit like we've had some missed opportunities. I think, like the mayor mentioned, I was hoping that we could have got this done as part of the bond that we are working on right now, and I think that would have been a tremendous rounding out that project, of the entire library project. But unfortunately, that did not happen, and now we're in a place where I think we are faced with an incomplete library system for the county, and so that becomes the challenge, how we do that. I can't remember exactly what your thought was today, Commissioner Harvey, but I think it was along these lines, if I remember correctly, and that is one of the things I appreciate about the mayor is he didn't just come hat in hand. He went as far as to create in his own, create a plan, and it may not be the perfect plan that we can live with, but he gave us somewhere to start because of his effort, his willingness to not just say, hey, I want this problem solved, but here's an idea of how to solve it. And I appreciate that because we need a place to start. And if that ends up being the plan, great. If it doesn't, it's a start for us. It's a jumping off point, a place to begin. And so I would just say, in closing, Mr. Park mentioned in his presentation, there's no reason why we couldn't put it high on our capital funding list and make that a serious priority. And I just think that's probably the best way to go about this at this point. That we need to, from my perspective, this needs to be as high as it possibly can be, and it needs to be. We need to see this as part of a necessary improvement to our library system. And so, unfortunately, needs don't go away. In fact, it seems like as fast as we think we're making progress on some of these capital needs, other things are added to the list fairly quickly, and pretty soon the list seems to be longer than it was when we began. And some are issues of timing, but I would just encourage the Commission again to remember that there is a timing element here from the standpoint that we have a city that is willing to donate over $1 million to this project, and Mayor Dickamore will be here for 4 years, hopefully, maybe more. He shakes his head no, and I don't blame him. But at some point, whether it's within those 4 years or not, at some point that offer is going to go away. That offer of $1 million towards this project, and so we just need to understand and remember that it is a timing issue for us as well. And anytime we have the opportunity to partner with someone else who is very interested in a project, that's a positive thing. So I encourage us to put this as high as we possibly can on our priority list. And Mayor, frankly, I hope you'll stick around for our budget discussion so that you can hear a little bit more of what I know it's about. Like,
Look at my watch too.
but
Shorter than your presentation. Shorter than your presentation.
But I think it'll add some valuable perspective as to where some of the things we're grappling with, and hopefully it'll give us a way of looking at those discussions in a different light too, having had this conversation. So anyway, I appreciate your service, Mayor, and thanks for coming and presenting to us.
So really quick, Mayor, I want to just touch base as a reminder that this commission is committed to libraries. I was one of the commissioners that talked to you initially about looking at the Northwest and understanding what our needs are and identifying those needs early so that property is designated, so when we have this opportunity to move forward, we have the right location. Commissioner Harvey sits on the library board. I've heard him several times talk about the importance of understanding the growth that will happen out in the Northwest quadrant. And so you have supporters here. I don't know if you haven't felt that or not, but you do have supporters here. We were supporting 2.5 years ago when this process started, and we continue to support. What I hope that Mr. Bond and Mr. Park have been able to express is where we are financially and what our constraints are. I wouldn't so quickly write off a general obligation. This county, even though it is a conservative county by nature, has passed every transportation tax increase requested. It's passed the ramp tax twice. It's passed many of the school bond requests. It's a county that I think understands fairness and equity and a need for libraries within the system to complete a system. I think we have the best library director in the state, the best board in the state that makes an honest effort to get information out to people. I wouldn't as quickly just write off our citizens as being citizens that aren't just looking at themselves. They understand the need as a whole. And I think you can make that argument as you have to us. I think the library board can make that to the county as a whole. And so we want to continue to partner moving this forward, but we have to move it forward in a way that is financially responsible for the county and the position the county presently is in. And as we look at priorities, we will definitely prioritize the library with an understanding of the need for educational opportunities for especially those who are underserved within our communities. So again, I also would express my appreciation for you bringing this to us and for your passion in it, and we will continue to put a priority on it. So thank you very much. Any other comments, commissioners? Okay, any action to take? Okay, we'll move to item number 2, a request for approval of final reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County to amend the following sections of the Weber County Code, Definitions 101-1-7, and Ogden Valley Signs, Title 110, Chapter 2, to amend provisions related to flags, window signs, and portable signs. Charlie Ewert. Oh, you're not Charlie Ewert. Rick Rover.
Charlie, you're stuck with me.
Rick Rover. Love to see you, Rick.
Last week you had the first reading of this ordinance. This is the second reading. Had the public hearing last week. Took public comment. There was no changes that was forwarded on, so the ordinance is before you is what was last week. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions, commissioners?
I'll make a motion if you're ready.
I'm ready. Ordinance, Fatima?
31.
Make a motion that we approve second and final reading of ordinance number 31.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
And Chair Ebert?
Aye. It passes. Thank you very much, Rick. Item number 3, request for approval of the second reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County approving Ogden Canyon Road name changes. Brett. Hey, so you actually came up this time.
I did.
So it's good to see you.
Devron's not here to take my job. So we don't have any changes to the road name change. It's still as is.
Okay.
So
As it was presented in our last meeting. Wonderful. Any questions for Brett? Open for motion.
So move that we adopt or approve the second reading of the ordinance
Ordinance 32.
32, approving the Ogden Canyon Road name changes. This is a great move forward. Thank you.
Yeah.
The last sentence is probably not part of the ordinance motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll
Just putting
second.
the last sentence. A motion and a second. Fatima?
Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
And Chair Ebert?
Aye. It passes. Thank you very much. Thanks
Thank
for your time. Item number 4 is a request for approval of a lease agreement by and between Weber County and Summers LLC and Western Landscaping Company. Sean Wilkinson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. We have had a lease with Summers & Summers since 2003, I believe, on this property up in the Ogden Valley. It's just west of our road shop. It expired earlier this year, and they have asked that we enter into a new agreement to continue that lease. They would also like to bring Western Landscaping on board and allow them to use this space for storage of landscaping products, which is what it has been used for in the past. In doing that, the rent would increase because we would have 2 tenants. So instead of $200 a month, the county would be receiving $400 per month. This lease would go for 1 year with 3 additional 1-year lease options. So, Commissioners, with that, I would ask for your approval of this lease agreement.
I don't know that we have any other plans, Sean, for that piece of property, so this represents a good move, and it's fair for the square footage that's being allowed. Is that, in your professional opinion?
Yes, and that's part of the reason behind the 1-year lease with the additional options if the county agrees, because if we do need the property in the future, we don't want to be tied down to a long-term lease contract.
I'm ready to make
Commissioner Gibson, any comments? Open for motion.
I'll move that we approve the lease agreement between Weber County and Summers LLC and Western Landscaping.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you, Sean. Item number 5, request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County authorizing participation in the Small Business Loan Program administered by Business Loans of Utah. Doug Larson.
Commissioners, good morning.
Good morning.
Ish.
Good morning, Ish. I was going to say this is a great day for economic development in Weber County, but I wouldn't be doing my job every day is a good day, right? So you have before you a resolution that kind of formally indicates that Weber County will be participating in a small business development loan fund. We will start that effectively in January of 2018. So we, by committing to this, we're appropriating funds to invest in the growth of small business by participating in this loan fund, again, administered by the Business Loan Funds of Utah. The fund's purpose is to provide access to critical investment capital for underserved county businesses, and that's a big piece of this. Just a little bit of background as it relates to small businesses in the United States. Roughly 99% of all the businesses in the United States are technically fall under that small business title. They employ 56 million people across the country. That's nearly half of the private sector employee count. Non-predatory lending opportunities are very limited for emerging Weber County small businesses to expand. The Business Loan Fund is an economic development tool, and we have very few of those, that allows local municipalities and counties to provide local small businesses not considered bankable by traditional lending with financing for their needs to be successful. So for every $1 that we appropriate to this fund, we get to leverage $7. And so we're making a commitment in 2018 of $100,000. That will provide us the opportunity to generate loans up to $700,000. So that's a pretty good leverage opportunity, 1 for 7. We will earn interest on the loans that we extend to our projects within our county. This interest will be earned on what we call subordinated debt. And so we will see some direct dollar return from interest, but the indirect and maybe not as readily quantifiable benefits that we'll receive from helping small business grow and expand. Of course, we anticipate seeing increases in property tax, sales tax, jobs, and additional investment. One of the things that was tied directly to your very first agenda item, action item, was the need for more revenue. This is an opportunity for us to help increase revenue in Weber County by supporting small businesses. I indicated to you that we will be technically launching this loan program in January of 2018 for small businesses. Small businesses will be able to apply for these loans that can be used for equipment purchases, working capital, land and construction, gap financing, and accounts receivable. We have some latitude, and that's one of the great things about this program, to be a little bit flexible on who we lend to. And we will work with you as a commission over the next couple of months to narrow down our loan program. We're likely to tie those to our important industry clusters, primary aerospace, manufacturing, outdoor recreation, and tech. This is a 5-year loan program, meaning that loans will be up to 5 years in term. The minimum loan amount at this point is $51,000 with a maximum loan amount of roughly $175,000. The real brains behind Business Loans of Utah are 2 gentlemen from the Utah Center for Neighborhood Stabilization, Mike Plaisir and Paul Johnson. I'd like to introduce them and have them come say a few things, if I may.
Yes, if you would like, you're welcome to
approach the bench.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I was hoping they were our financiers. I thought we had the two oldest missionaries sitting in the back row. Good to see you, Mike.
Almost like missionaries. Well, Commissioners, I really appreciate this opportunity to come and tell you about this fund. We appreciate Weber County and their willingness to take a look at this fund. Right now we have 6 cities and counties that are looking at it to come in at first, and that's a few more than we wanted to take at first, because as we put these funds together, there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of attorneys, and it's better to start with a small number. So we started looking at this idea several years ago. Our organization had a small business fund that we did funds. We worked with banks to help guarantee and participate in loans that weren't bankable at the time. That was a treasury program that we administered for the state of Utah. That program officially ended with the Treasury on December 31st of 2016. Our board saw the need for small business lending and has authorized us to start this fund. We appreciate Weber being one of the first ones. We wanted friendly counties and ones that could understand the importance of this economic development. And we've been working with Doug we have almost weekly meetings for about the last 6 months to get this all right. We see this as a way to help create more jobs. Nationally, there's a we call it a financial desert, in that $50,000 to $250,000 loans, where businesses that need less than $50,000, they can go to Microenterprise Loan Fund, they can get other sources of money, and the ones that need over $250,000 are generally of a size and nature that they can find that financing. So we see this as a way for Weber County to be innovative and creative and participate in this fund, leverage your $100,000, turn that into $100,000. And what we're hoping, many of the cities and counties that participate are starting at a $50,000 or $100,000, or Box Elder is contemplating $200,000 to come in initially. But then each year increase that fund and add some more into it each year as you expand the fund and the need for that. We see this can be a real advantage for your businesses here. Just a little bit on how this fund works. As Doug said, as we get referrals, we'll get some summary information that will go to Doug, and the county will be able to set which businesses are eligible for the fund. So they can kind of set the parameters, as Doug mentioned, aerospace or other of your cluster businesses. You can set which type of businesses are eligible. Doug will be able to sign off and give us authorization to proceed. We'll then meet with the business, underwrite it. It'll come to a credit committee, which will consist of the bank lenders that are in the fund, and then wherever that loan is going to be located, the city that's going to put in the subordinate debt. So if it's in Weber County, then we'd have a representative from Weber County also on the credit committee that could approve it or decline it.
So Mike, I just really want to touch on, I think it's something that's important for us to really point out, is that Weber County will create the construct of where we're really driving these dollars. It's aerospace, it may be capital, maybe equipment, it may be GAP. Then businesses, or hopefully future businesses, will apply for it, will review it. Douglas will make a recommendation to the credit committee. The credit committee then makes the final determination, and really the experts in multiple fields, financial and others in business, will really look at the viability of this and make the final determination. It's not a kind of a wild guess that we're making as a county. We're setting the parameters of what our economic development goals and objectives are.
Yes, that is correct, and the county will get the opportunity to say we'll put our funds in as subordinate debt, or we won't on each type of business. We do have approval on the fund from the lender right now. We just have one lender for the full $7 million. That's Zions Bank.
Full $7 million or $700,000?
They're doing, the fund is $7 million from the Class A lenders. Weber's portion is anticipated at $700,000. But the Class A lender has approved the loan for $7 million. We expect this fund, we want to go out to the other cities and counties that aren't participating now. Everyone that we've approached has decided to participate. And first, I want to approach.
Take your time. Let us fill the hole first.
That's what you guys are special, so we want you to be in the special group that gets to close first and be one of the founding members of that. But after that, we intend to go out. We have approached Ally Bank and Synchrony Bank and American Express and Morgan Stanley, who've all expressed an interest to come into the fund also. So we think there's plenty of room out there to expand the fund as we put in additional cities and counties participate in the fund. They will be underwritten by professional underwriters and have a package. We look at it and say, banks, they finance history. To get a loan from a bank, you have to show that you have the financial history and the financial numbers, historical numbers to do that. We say we can finance the story. They're not going to be quite bankable, but we're going to put them through a process very similar to what they would need to go through the bank to help them become bank ready, to help them learn that process so that our goal is that in 3 to 5 years they're bank ready and then they can go get financing from a traditional bank. So we see this, we've really enjoyed working with Doug. He's been a great support and had great, you've got a great man there working for you on economic development. He's come up with a lot of good ideas for our committee. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, any questions?
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Just comment, I guess. I don't know that it's really a question, but I just want to congratulate you, Doug, and the rest of the team, Mike, and I'm sorry, missed your name, Paul. Thank you for believing in us as a county and as a community. I think what you'll find is that this is a very unique community in which we believe in each other. And we're willing to invest in each other's success, and we hope that we lead in that type of a manner and example. And I think you're going to see great things from this in the future. And Doug, I think you almost said it absolutely right. And not to minimize every other day, but this is a great day for Weber County, for economic development in Weber County, because it's all about tools in the toolbox and arrows in the quiver, and however you want to say it. And this gives us opportunities to help our economic development goals and ideals move forward in a way that is positive, that is where individuals have the ability to show their own faith through taking the risk of starting or growing a business. And as we rally around them and show them our confidence in them, I think it's just going to be a tremendous result. And this is a tool that's just been long overdue. And Doug, I'm grateful for you and proud to be a part of this type of a movement going forward. And so I know there are a lot of people who aren't in the room that are going to participate in this. I hope that you'll find a way to express our gratitude for this, but to you three especially, thank you, and we look forward to working with you.
Well, thank you. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Mike, not only on this, but also in your low and moderate income housing work that you do and trying to find tax credits to move those projects forward. There's lots of things. You have your hands in a lot of different pots helping build communities, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else,
Couple comments,
Douglas, please.
Just as maybe clarification, I indicated a couple of times that we technically won't start this program until 2018. Having you do this resolution now provides them and the lender, the primary lender, with comfort that we are moving forward and we've appropriated those funds. So I think that's important to clarify. And one other thing that's super important, just maybe a little latitude, Mr. Chair. I think I've spoken with all three of you about my frustration at times with lawyers, right? But I need to acknowledge Mr. Erickson with this program and the process by which we had to move this resolution forward. We really need to applaud Mr. Erickson because he found a very efficient pathway for all of us to move this forward. And my day was so great when he made that call to us and said, here's an easier and better and smarter way to do this. So that's important to me that we forward tell him thank you. So Any other questions for you?
I didn't know,
Or from you, I'm happy to answer, commissioners.
I didn't know Mr. Erickson had low ears.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what you said. Fatima, resolution 44. I'm open for a motion, commissioners.
So move that we approve this. This did a lot of work. Thanks for seeing it through. Move that we approve the resolution authorizing participation in the Small Business Loan Program.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 44 as commented on. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Fatima?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, it passes. Thank you very much for your time and all your work. Item number 6, request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing a Weber County representative and an alternate representative for the Utah Counties Indemnity Pool annual membership meeting. And we'll go to our low ears. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Commissioners. Dave Wilson asked me to fill in for him today. This resolution is an annual item, as noted. The Utah Counties Indemnity Pool has a membership meeting each November, and by resolution, the proposal that has been made is to appoint Commissioner Ebert as the representative for that meeting, with Commissioner Gibson as the alternate representative.
Yeah, questions, thoughts, or concerns, commissioners?
It's right in the middle of the fairway. That's perfect.
We don't really even have to take a big swing at it. We can just do a real quick chip and move
Didn't
on.
say how far down. No, that's good.
I'm open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution as stated.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Seeing none. Fatima?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Thank you. Item number 7, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Les Olson Company for a copy machine and whiteboard. Shelley.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Allison. Thank you, Shelley.
We,
Nice shirt.
thank you.
It needs a gnome hat and beard.
Yes, it does. We recently looked into getting a new copy machine for the commission office. We wanted one that was more, that would work better for us to do some of the things that we do in our office for the golf tournament, making books, things like that. So we called Les Olson. They came out and gave us a little demonstration, and we decided to get this. And that's what I'm bringing before you.
Thank you very much. Shelley, any questions or for Shelley? If not, I'm open for a motion.
I have just 2 questions. So, with regards to our old contract and their new contract, what's the difference in cost, including the whiteboard?
It's about $100 less a month for the new contract.
Thank you.
So do we have, do they give us like purchase amounts on either of those, or is it all based on a lease?
It's on a lease. I have a monthly amount for each one, but I don't have the total amount. I'm sorry. For the copy machine, it's $154.18 a month, and for the smart board, it's $94.74.
I mean, do they separate them out?
No, it's on one contract.
But so we don't know what they would have cost without the lease, without being figured into the lease.
I could get you that information, but I don't have it with me today. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to figure out. I mean, how we obviously needed to replace the copier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess my only question is, if we had replaced the copier and not purchased the whiteboard, what would the amount have been? Do we know that?
It would have been the less than $94.74 a month.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Open for a motion.
By the way, just confirming on state contract, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 8, request for approval of the Weber County 2018 tentative budget. Mr. Scott Park, go ahead.
Point of information. Sorry, point of information, or
Just say.
privilege, or whatever that's called. We moved one item down. Will he cover both of those items?
He will do his presentation after the tentative budget. Is that the order that?
So that I'm clear, thank you.
If it's okay with you, I'd like to present the interim financial report first and then move into the tentative budget, as I think it'll flow.
Let's do that.
Appropriately. Okay.
Going by the direction that I thought you gave us.
We're okay. The interim financial report is an accounting of the county's expenditures and revenues through September 30th of this year. So it's how we're doing in 2017. You have the report hopefully in front of you on the email. I'll just go through some of the talking points of this. The county's general fund is large and it's made up of a lot of different departments. And so for me to sit down in a meeting like this and have you review a detailed financial statement, it's not an efficient use of time. And so what we do on a quarterly basis at the clerk auditor's office, we review every account in the county, every revenue, every expense line. We look for outliers. We look for things that don't look right. We look for departments that are spending their budgets faster than they normally would. And we try to work with those departments individually to make sure that we don't have any issues. So that when I summarize all that data and present to you a single one-page financial report that adds up all the activity of the entire county, and you look at that and you wonder what that means is, what it means is we're okay. We're right where we expect to be for revenues at this time of year. We're right where we expect to be for expenditures at the general fund at this time of year. So I don't really have anything interesting to report to you on the general fund unless you have any specific questions. Okay.
Just to summarize for my simple mind is we are where we thought we would be a year ago when this process of approving a proposed budget was there. So we're right on pace with
we're right where we expect it to be.
Thank you.
And that's a good place to be. So flipping over to the next page of this report, the Municipal Services Fund. So this is the unincorporated areas of the county. And they operate a little bit different. They have a higher percentage of sales tax revenue, so their revenue are a little higher than the general fund at this point of the year, but that's right where we expect them to be. And their expenditures are right where we expect them to be for this point of the year as well. So there's nothing of concern in the Municipal Services Fund. If there is ever anything of concern, we deal with the department heads directly, so it's resolved by the time we get to this meeting. So hopefully these meetings are always boring. All the heavy work should have been. Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, we're going to move over to the transfer station. So as you're aware, the transfer station for the past few years was losing money. I am happy to report that as of September 30th, 2017, we were actually $300,000 on the plus side. So we made some adjustments to our fee schedules. We've made some other changes, and I think we're headed in the right direction there. We're going to be able to fund our capital improvements plan, and we're going to start to be able to recover some of the deficit that we've had previously.
So I just want to make sure when you say we're $300,000 on the plus side, that really isn't a $300,000 on the plus side, because we have within our 5-year capital project dollars that $300,000 will go to. There are other items within that budget that will really shrink that $300,000, because that should be as an enterprise fund, not making money. Correct?
As an enterprise fund, it should cover all of its costs. That's correct.
That's what my point is.
Yeah, set aside some money to pay for future capital
so
projects.
I don't want people to think that the tipping fees and or other fees are artificially high in creating a revenue stream. They're not. They're creating the capital dollars for sustainability.
That is correct.
Okay.
And we don't transfer any money out of the transfer station. The enterprise funds are self-sufficient, which means we don't raid their fund balance to supplement county expenditures. They live on their own. They're their own business, essentially. But it is nice to see them actually generating enough money to hopefully be able to start covering some of their capital expenditures, which they have not been able to do in the past few years.
Thank you.
And then the final enterprise fund that we talk about is the animal shelter. The animal shelter is set up to cover its own costs. It is right where we expect it to be for this time of the year. Any savings goes to reduce future capital expenditures or equipment needs as well. We don't take any of that fund balance and subsidize the general fund at all. So unless there's any questions, I'll present to you that interim financial report for the third quarter of the year.
Thank you very much, Scott. Moving on.
Moving on. Just one moment. Okay, so now this is the fun part. This is the tentative budget for 2018. So commissioners, as you're aware, this budget process started a while ago. We start by gathering requests from all of the different county departments. We compile those requests and have some hearings where the departments come in and make their pitches to the county commission, and then we go through, do some preliminary approvals from you guys to figure out what we want to fund for the year. We look at our capital project requests and how the priorities shake out, and we compile a tentative budget to put out for the departments and all the public to see and get feedback. So I'm presenting to you now the tentative budget. I just wanted to highlight a couple of the big features in this. It does include a 1% cost of living adjustment for employees and also a 25-cent per hour increase for employees. That 25 cents an hour is designed to offset the increased cost of insurance that we're asking the employees to pay. So that one is kind of a wash, but the 1% cost of living adjustment will go to all employees. The tentative budget also includes a capital projects plan, and as we've mentioned that earlier, I just want to highlight a couple of different features of that capital projects plan. So looking back last year at this point, when we were standing before you considering if we were going to increase some additional funding for capital projects, we had an unfunded need of about $19 million. So we had $19 million of requests over the next 5 years in excess of the amount of money we had available for those projects. So when we flash forward to today, we've made some adjustments with those tax increases, and we're a lot better off. We're a lot closer to funding that now. We're not all the way there yet. We still have about $10 million of unmet capital project needs over the next 5 years, and we continue to prioritize that better. But that shift of about $8 million down is a direct result of having some additional funds available now, start meeting some of these requests. So in this current year, let me just highlight a couple of them. We plan to spend $10 million on to finish the libraries. That money was set aside in a bond, so it's dedicated entirely for that purpose. We also have $600,000 that's going to help us with deferred maintenance, repairs, and equipment purchases in our Culture, Parks, and Rec department. We have about $500,000 that's going to go to help us improve the Weber Center, including repairs to the parking structure to help us try to squeeze a few more years of life out of that. We have $350,000 that's going to upgrade our IT infrastructure to make sure that we are where we need to be in terms of our servers and our software, and we're in compliance with all the applicable rules. We've got about $100,000 going towards election equipment. We've got about $150,000 going to improvements in the gun range to get those facilities to where they need to be. So it's exciting that we're actually also able to save a little bit of money for future capital projects. So we're going to put $1.4 million away in our capital projects fund balance, and we're going to use that to help us meet some of these expenditures that we have coming in years 2, 3, and 4. So unless you have any specific questions, the process at this point would be to have you accept the tentative budget. We will put it out on the county's website, and we will have any interested party look at that and make comments and feedback. We will hold a public hearing on the 28th of November, I believe. 28th of November at 6 p.m., where we'll get an opportunity for the public to come in and express their opinions and comments on the budget. We'll take some time to mull over those comments, make any adjustments that we need, and we anticipate passing the final budget in the middle of December.
Questions, commissioners, or comments? Seeing none, I'm open for motion.
Commissioners, I move that we accept or approve the Weber County 2018 tentative budget as presented by Mr. Park.
I'll second, and with comment, Scott, and it's one of the reasons I encouraged Mayor Dickamore to come, is that I was hoping that we would have a little more discussion on the capital projects. Is there anything that you can show us or talk to us about specifically about capital project needs that would be helpful to the discussion we had earlier in the day?
Other than to point out, so in the tentative budget, I believe it's on page 32 of your PDF document, that includes the countywide capital projects plan. I didn't go through all the detailed individual requests, but just if you look at the magnitude of these requests out here, we've got about $35.5 million of requests, of which $10.5 million of that is a library. Now, we haven't put a priority to this list. I just sorted it in terms of largest to smallest projects. But as you look at this, we've got a lot of different requests, and you can see the shortfall down there. There's a couple of adjustments we're going to make that helps that $14 million number shrink a little bit, and we'll do that for our final budget. But you can still see that on the schedule, we're still short an awful lot of money on this capital projects request. So as we consider.
Which page was that again, Scott? I'm having a hard time finding it.
32. The page number at the bottom.
So it doesn't count the first couple of pages.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Page 32 numbered on the bottom, so probably
Got it.
34, 35 in the PDF document.
And I think it's important to note that this is the list that's been compiled by department heads and elected officials. There are assorted other possible capital projects that are out there that may come forward that aren't on this list. A Northwest Branch Library would be something the Finance Committee and the Commissioners would work through as we start the process of prioritizing. There's other items that aren't specifically listed here that may end up on the list as we go through our first 5-year capital improvement prioritization list that we've really never done before.
So there is a list of potential capital projects, which I did not include on this list. You've seen that list in our budget meetings. And
Yes.
the reason why they're not included is because we have not yet evaluated them. We have not yet prioritized them. The library is on that list, but we don't have the data yet to actually feel comfortable saying, yeah, this is on our 5-year plan and this is where it would fit, because we haven't done the evaluation yet. And there are several other projects like that. So when you look at our capital projects list and our potential list, we actually have probably another $10 to $20 million of requested projects that haven't yet even made the
Center
list.
is part of that.
Yeah.
That would complement the convention center. There's very large projects out there.
So when we consider the library, when we consider the expo center, when we consider all these other projects, they need to be evaluated and plotted with our budget and the funding sources to make sure that we can fund it, because we do have a lot of requests and we could never possibly fund all of the potential capital projects that are on that other list.
How would you see us prioritizing those into the future? Every year in a budget cycle like this, or?
So that would be the intention, is to every year review the 5-year capital project on the next list. So, and I don't have the presentation now, but in our public hearing, we now go through 5 years of fund balance projections for all of our funds that are supported with tax rates. And we give, what's the likelihood that these funds are going to be stable within the next 5 years. I envision as part of that process, we would also pull out the 5-year capital projects plan and say, okay, here's the 5-year plan from last year. Here's any changes that we want to make. We want to bump project A up a little bit. We want to move project B down a little bit. And every year the commission would have the opportunity to vote on that or approve that capital projects list with the acknowledgement that it can always change. Tomorrow there could be another storm and it could completely change the priority list. Or there could be an earthquake in the parking structure is damaged to the point where we can't even mandate it. And so, the lists change as circumstances change, but it will be evaluated at least once a year and reprioritized once a year in the budget cycle.
Okay, any further questions?
So we're not approving any of those today. We're approving as part of the capital facilities or capital expenditures list, the way that it's laid out here on this spreadsheet with the countywide capital projects plan. I'm not 100% comfortable with everything and the way that it's laid out there today, but I think as a result of our discussions in our budget meetings, I think I'm okay moving forward to that discussion with the public and our final decisions. I just want to make sure that we're considering everything, and that's why it's kind of, to me, some kind of having something like you described with that additional list showing what's out there, so that we know, and maybe it doesn't need to be in as part of the budget, but so that we know what we're looking at in the future. So, it's hard to bite off a piece for today and ignore what's coming around the corner tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get my arms around it all.
To Scott's point, the other items aren't included on here. We haven't looked at them because we haven't properly vetted them, and we don't feel like we can vet them in the next 30 days. And so those items aren't on here purposely because we have to go through the entire process of vetting them. So we'll bring them to the financial committee to work with the commissions to start the process of vetting them. Once we entirely vet them, then we'll put them into this capital projects prioritization list based upon the information we've gathered at that time. That's the purpose. They're not there right now.
I totally understand that, and I wouldn't want to move them forward until they were properly vetted. But on some of these items, we're making commitments for 4 and 5 years out, right?
So,
and so
the way this
or at
capital
least
projects plan works is we are only asking you to approve the 2018 tentative column. So this is all one-time money. So while it shows the requests in years 2, 3, 4, and 5, we don't have enough money to fund all those.
Understood. And that's my point, is that somehow, some of these, at least, if you fund part of it now, it's going to be hard not to fund the rest of it later.
Correct.
Right? And so I just want to make sure that we're not boxing ourselves into a corner by starting a project or saying that we're going to do a particular project, knowing that there are other things around the corner. So I'm not being critical of the way that we're doing it. Don't get me wrong. I just, because there's no perfect way, but I just want to make sure we see that we're really seeing everything, and I'm comfortable moving forward at this time with it the way it is.
And we can change this format if you'd like for the final budget. We can add those additional wish list projects as a wish list. I hesitate to do that because they're an idea, we're happy to put them on the ideas list, but until they get a vetting, we don't know for sure what they cost.
I'm not asking for that to happen at this time. I just needed to get my arms around it, so thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Gibson. Further thoughts? Again, we want to make sure that we're looking forward in everything that we're doing and not boxing ourselves into a long-term commitment when there are other priorities that may take precedence as we start the process of vetting. So that being said, any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you very much. Are you done?
Yep.
All right. Now's the time we have available for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up and take a couple minutes in public comment? Seeing none, we're open for our last motion of the day, which is to adjourn.
So moved.
Is that a debatable motion?
It could be if you want. I won't argue with you.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. It passes. Thank you very much, and thank you for attending today. And thank you for being cool Modi back there with your glasses. You look super cool.